Only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. For this reason, mastery demands all of a person.
What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about best-selling books and their best principles to help you out with your best life. I am very excited as your host today, Willie Blake, to have with me our other co-host, Mr. Ian Sturmer, as well as the founder of Champion Circle, Mr. John Kovacs Jr. And we are excited to continue our conversation today for this month's book of High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. One of my top favorite books. I love reviewing this truly probably every week. And as always, if you look over to Fingers the Right Way to John's video, you can see the High Performance Habits book, which is fantastic. How extraordinary people become that way. And go grab your book at your favorite Amazon website. Right? Amazon website. There we go. We're in that mood today. Today, we're jumping into the topic because we've talked about energy. We've talked about getting clarity. And today, we're jumping into the realm, which is kind of fun, of superheroes. The realm of the one who is able to master themselves, be themselves the high performer, and do it with their whole strength and just focus and energy and everything into it, that they are then able to become that true master. I know as we were talking in the background, we had so many different ideas. So I'm just going to open it up to both of you to start this off of the discussion that we have with superheroes and John looking like Clark Kent and everything.
I do feel like Clark Kent today. And I just wanted to say, like, one of the reasons why I wanted to dive into this particular genre of conversation today is because, you know, we all have a superhero within us somewhere. We have strengths. We have a desire. You know, when we were children, we truly desired to be the I don't know, the hero or the main I don't know, accomplisher of a situation or story. You know, just give a person a doll and watch what happens. This little kid will take the doll, and all of a sudden that doll can fly, and that doll will have a moment where it almost seems bleak, like they can't overcome the challenge, but then all of a sudden they conquer. They develop incredible strength, and they find themselves just winning. And we all see ourselves in that role. We just express it in different ways. And so I think this is a powerful reminder, and we get geeked out about this because we truly are superheroes. We just need to unleash the power within, to quote Mr. Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I think we're all superheroes, but there's two kinds of superheroes. There's Superman, Spider-Man type, where you're from a different planet or you're bitten by a spider and you suddenly get these powers. Spider-Man was my favorite growing up because he was just a geeky guy who suddenly got powers, and hey, I can get that. That'll work. But the other kind is like the Batman, or another favorite, Iron Fist, a little less popular superhero. John knows him. And those are ones who were normal people who went out and trained and studied and learned how to do it. And I think with our own superhero, we have those two kinds. We have some innate abilities. Maybe we're good at remembering names. We understand, concepts or structures or math or whatever it is that's innately inherent in us. And other ones, we just have to study and learn and grow to become that superhero. So I think when we look at being a superhero, we have both of those. We have, God-given talents, and we have get off your butt and get working really hard to develop other talents that you need. So I'll throw out those kinds of superheroes. And I like the first one better because it takes less work.
I'll quickly add one more, just because I have a favorite superhero, and I don't know if you guys know this, but my favorite superhero is Batman. And to quote Batman in his latest awesome film, "What makes you superhero?" And he says, "I'm rich." You know, so there you go. Like, there's a third anomaly, the rich ones, but they kind of fit into that second category of, look, they developed it, they studied, they practiced, they went into the depths of darkness to learn and grow. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I think Batman was given the money though, so that was inherent. Bruce Wayne was, yeah.
What's your superhero? I'm rich.
I swear, John, I swear you were going to say, I'm Batman. Superhero, it's like I think everyone, whether it's a fictional superhero, whether it's an idol in your life, everyone has someone that they look up to. And if they don't, I just think it's a lack of more a lack of clarity of what you want and such. But all of us just have someone we look up to, whether it's fictional or whatnot. It reminds me of a book that we reviewed several months back called The Alter Ego Effect. Todd Herman's book, because in there it talks about that, is Clark Kent Superman's alter ego, or is Superman Clark Kent's alter ego? And he went into it saying that he thinks, and I'm in agreement with Todd, is that Clark Kent is Superman's alter ego, because down deep he is Superman. That is who he is, and then he disguises himself to show up as Clark Kent when he needs to be in disguise. Same as with us. Each of us have the life that we go through every single day, but when we need to show up and become a different person. I know, John, you feel like this when you're on stage and on different calls. It's like when you show up, you show up as an alter ego. And I'm trying to remember, I don't know Beyonce's name off the top of my head. Besides Beyonce, right? But before she was Beyonce, she was someone else. And then she had the alter ego of Beyonce. And then eventually she transformed into Beyonce and being Beyonce her entire life, being that superhero and truly mastering herself with it. So
totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And I had to bring this up, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen, you guys. This is my favorite quote, motivational quote and meme. And I agree. This actually has a lot to do with what you just said, Willie. Like, is Superman the alter ego, or is Clark Kent the alter ego? And I love that, because within us truly is the desire. And I've always resonated with this meme / motivational quote, because truly you can be whoever you want to be. It's deciding which ego and alter ego you'd like to balance. But here is the slide. If you're looking at us from the video version, I've always loved this. And it's a picture of a cat wearing a Batman hat and a cape. And it says, always be yourself. I mean, period. Done. Always be you. Never change you. Unless you can be Batcat. Always be Batcat, because Batcat is way cooler than yourself, right? And I've always loved this, because it's kind of a jive. It's kind of a jab at personal development in a way, in a teasing way, because it's like, your true authentic self is the most important thing in the world. But at the same time, who do you want to be? And can you be that? Yeah, be that. Be who you want to be. Don't be the regular just yourself. Be the what you want to be self. And that's a powerful, I guess, lesson in and of itself. And you can decide I'm right or wrong. It doesn't matter. But I love this, and I've always resonated with this. And this is truly the theme of my life. Always be yourself in any moment you can, unless you can be Batcat. And if you can throw on this really cool ego and maybe alter ego of being a Batcat or a superhero, or whatever it is you choose to be in that moment, be that, because it just makes the world so much better. Any thoughts or comments on this, guys?
Yeah. I was just thinking, you just put on the cape and the cowl, or the mask and the cowl, and suddenly you're Batcat. But there's actually some truth in that. I worked in customer service for many years when I was younger, and I loved wearing a name tag. because when I put on a name tag, no one ever yelled at me. They yelled at the name tag all the time. But I could see that as not me, not the person I am, not my likes and dislikes. They were upset with the situation, which was that name tag. And I think the same way, if we go into a sales presentation, we go up to speak in front of somebody, we sit down with a client, we put on a little bit of a mask, and we're a kind of an actor of our role. And I think that's part of our superhero is we then become, John the speaker, Willie the coach, Ian the author coach. We become that person, just like putting on the mask. And I think there's a bit of a superhero-ness in that, just in taking on that role and recognizing that. So I'll pass that back to you guys.
It's Batcat. Just be Batcat. That you heard it here. To be a high performer, all you got to do is be Batcat. That's it. That's it. Mic drop. Truth bomb. Boom. There we go. Ian, what you said was interesting because it reminded me that, like, when you put on that name tag and you were able to like deflect, it reminded me when my family and I lived up in Idaho a couple of years back, and I was a property manager up there. And over, I think it was like 112 or 122 apartments. And I remember that tenants would come, and as the property and as the person in charge of there, they'd yell at me about all the troubles and everything going on. And it really affected me until my boss sat down with me and told me something different. He said, they're not yelling at you. You're actually, in the strangest way possible, you kind of get to play God in a way. And I said, okay, please explain that. Said, here, you got the tenant, which is the person, and then you have the lease, which is like the judgment. This is the be all say out. Everything is written in there. And so, like, God in the last days is going to judge us. And we get to come in and be the mediators. We're the ones that get to give the mercy part of it. To be like, even though your lease says this, and even though you broke it, said per lease, we can be lenient. We can lower the cost, or we can work with you, or we can enact the lease if needed. And so it was just this whole mindset shift of, it's not you versus the tenant. It's the tenant versus the lease. And then you get to come in and soften the blow, or enact the lease, or just be like, you want to know what? Due to the circumstance, absolutely, that was totally valid. So don't worry about paying anything. You won't get evicted, or, I can't think of a example straight off the top of my head, but it's so interesting that a lot of the times we take things personal in our lives, but when it comes to it, in those moments of, is it actually them getting after us, when we're trying to uphold mastery or high performance, or are they getting after the inner excuses within themselves that they've been saying that I'm not good enough, I can't become a master or a high performer. And so instead of fighting the pain and the pressure that they put in themselves, what's the only other option? Well, it's a lot easier to blame someone else than it is to blame ourselves.
Yeah. And I can't remember if I shared this in the last episode or not, Willie. But by the way, guys, without you knowing and under your noses, I Clark Kent styled my glasses change, and I'm going to continue to do that. I know I joked about it in the green room, but I switched to my Bono colored gunner glasses. So there you go. Oh, I didn't see that. That was awesome. Willie just flips them. I love it.
Flip them
Yeah.
upside down.
Oh, you actually look like a superhero. Wow. Okay, cool.
I'm Batcat.
It does.
I can't remember if I shared this in the last one or not, but I'm just going to share it anyways, because I think it's relevant. And what you said, Willie, is totally true. And in sort of a sarcastic way, like, here's sort of a humorous approach to understanding your true purpose and self. And I will never forget a award-winning speech Jim Carrey, I think he was at the Emmys or the Oscars. Forgive me for not knowing the details, but I just don't know. But anyways, they introduce him out on stage as two-time Emmy Award winner Jim Carrey, and he walks out and he begins a speech as, "Hello, everyone. I am two-time Emmy Award winner Jim Carrey. And at night, as I lay my head on my pillow, I close my eyes and I dream about becoming three-time Emmy Award winner Jim Carrey. And only then would I be enough." And everyone laughs and everyone understands, because it's kind of a jab at the whole industry where these awards are a big deal to these people. But at the same time, truly, is that what it's all about? Is it about being award winners? And I had an experience where I was speaking on stage a couple weeks ago, and they introduced me as 28-time best-selling author John Kovach Jr. And all of a sudden, I had a new sense of pep in my step. I was delivering a speech from a different energy level and a different thought process, because I was not just John Kovach Jr., the speaker and founder of Champion Circle, or the MC or the keynoter at that time. I was 28-time best-selling author John Kovach, and it was really an interesting experience, because I stepped into that role, and temporarily I wasn't a lie. I wasn't living a fable. I was living in a present moment and riding this wave of what I truly felt in that. And because that's what people saw me as, I was able to put on that hat. And if you guys listen to anything Dave Ramsey, he talks about wearing the different hats, wearing the roles of the house. Are you wearing your husband role? Are you wearing your budget controller hat, or are you wearing your boss hat? Whatever it might be, are you communicating that? And is it something that truly you can step into? And I want to dive into necessity here soon, but I definitely just wanted to carry this out a little bit longer, as I know it strikes up conversation. But I think it's really important for us to remember, again, who we are. What lineage do we come from? And if you're not a person of faith, that's okay. You can derive your understanding of who you are based on your worldly views of where you come from. What lineage do you truly come from? Are your parents hard workers? Are they from the descendancy of people who migrated across the world? Are they people of power? Are they people of simplicity, humility? What positive qualities and values do they come from, and what do they stand for? And is that something you continue to perpetuate in the human that you continue to live by? So those are just some thoughts I had. How about you guys?
Yeah. So I love that, again, that inherent superpower we all have within us. But I'm going to jump back a second to something you said earlier about Jim Carrey walking on stage. There was a comedian, I apologize, I forget who he was, but he walked on stage and there's a big applause, and he goes up to the microphone and he said something to the effect of, well, now that there's a big applause, I mean, I haven't done anything yet. It's going to be terrible if I just bomb up here and you already gave me this applause. So it made me think about something. And when we talk about superheroes, now new superhero for John, those of you who are not watching this in video need to switch over to video for this one, as we've changed our glasses over and over. But when you walk on stage and when you sit down with a client, you have something to prove at that point. And with a superhero, I know Willie is a fan of this one, One Punch Man, who was an anime character who got beaten up and decided he needed to go and develop superpowers and became the most powerful superhero. So often, to be a superhero, you have to have a supervillain. And one more geek out moment here. For those of you who don't know the original Superman, Action Comics #1, everyone on Krypton had superpowers. They all had superpowers at that point. So there were no superheroes. But when Clark Kent came to Earth, or Kal-El came to Earth, then he developed his superpowers. He was the only one, but Lex Luthor came along, and that's what made Superman. When he had a challenge, he had to overcome something. And I think for us to develop our superpowers in our high performance habits, we have to have a challenge to overcome. We have to have an obstacle. We have to struggle for something. If we just always sit there in the area that we like, our comfort zone, we will never be super because there's no challenge. If you go to the gym, if you don't exercise your muscles, they won't grow stronger. You can think about exercising all you want, but if you don't go do it and push yourself to a point of pain, you'll never get stronger. If you don't push yourself to a point of pain intellectually, you'll never get smarter. You'll never get better at your career if you don't push yourself to a point of pain and have that villain to overcome. So.
I'm going to say something that initially disagrees with what you said, Ian, but
No.
My emotions, but actually backs up what you said in a strange way, because what you said was,
I'm intrigued now.
Stay tuned for Batcat. So with what you said about don't stay in your environment, because if you do, you won't grow, you won't do anything. I agree with that. Thought came to my mind is that if we are super, but we stay in the environment that we were in, that also means that we are only super to them in their environment. Which means if we start to change it, that means if we get into a different environment to where other people are just already doing that, that's considered normal. That's just the average of what's going on. Imagine it like the analogy of the big fish in the pond. Like if you're a big fish in the pond, you're a massive fish, but put that fish in the ocean, you're probably one of the small ones compared to them. And so the principle in this is you can be super to the friends that you have right now, but that could just simply mean that you're just doing better than them. That might not mean that you have these superpowers or that you've mastered yourself or that you are a high performer. One of the best ways to test it is to get in room with people who are already doing what you are wanting to do. Trying to get into a room in which you are not the smartest, to where you are not the individual who has the most money or the most experience and the most business or whatever it is. Because when you get in there, you just realize how far you still need to come. And I think there's a nice humbling moment in which you can put yourself at right now, the you that you are, in an environment, and you can be the super powered one in there. And then you get, as you right now, put in a different one, and you could be someone who's just lackluster, who's just a lazy son of a gun trying to make their way in the world. And it's just so interesting that, wrapping it back, if you're wanting to improve, which ties in to Ian's point and agrees with it. If you want to improve, get in the situations to which you can improve. Because if you're the best person in the room, why the heck do you want to change? So, as we're hitting the tail end of this episode, I'd love to hear your final thoughts with this. We could go on for ages talking.
We really could, yeah.
But
yeah,
John, Ian, what's your final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say, like, and I'm going to scratch the whole raised necessity comment, because I think where this grew its own legs and wings, I think this is such a powerful concept. I'm actually going to go back to the original quote we shared at the beginning of this episode. So, only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. And then Albert Einstein continues to say, for this reason, mastery demands all of a person. And I love that, because we seek to be masters of our crafts. We seek to be the Batcat of our personalities, right? We seek to be the greatest versions of ourselves, and that never changes. That is truly humans desiring more than what they have. And you brought in the humility aspect, and you also brought out that evaluation aspect to it, and knowing where you stand and seeing you from that value-based self. I think that's just an important reminder that whoever you want and choose / decide to be, that's who you get to be if you devote all of yourself to it. You can't give parts of yourself. We're not talking Harry Potter, and your soul is divided into 7 Horcruxes, right? I hope I said that right. We're talking about you must not divide. You must not save yourself. That's going to create division in your brain, and your brain can't alter egos. Your brain can do one at a time and be who you choose to be, decide who you want to be. And I hate to be the one who's like, hey, let's bring it back to the book, because we've been talking about the book the entire time. I just wanted to say, like, when it comes to developing high performance habits, be all in. Don't approach anything with a nonchalant attitude. Approach everything with a, this is what I'm doing right now. We tend to read the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller and a company each year. And that's a valuable principle of deciding to change everything around from what you're used to doing. Instead of juggling 20 balls at once, focus on one, then add a second as it becomes easier and manageable, and then add a third as it becomes easier and manageable. So mastering the one at a time theory is truly how you become the super self you truly are. Thank you.
Love that. A couple last thoughts with it. One, Einstein is one of my superheroes, and Einstein, and I'll probably misquote this a little bit, but he always said that he didn't feel he was smarter than anyone else, but his power was that he was more curious than other people. And he focused on developing that curiosity. He also focused on his math and all of those things, but his curiosity was his superpower, and that bled over to the other areas. And I think as we develop our superpower that's somewhat innate with us, it's going to bleed over into other areas. Second, last one with that is going back to the book, High Performance Habits. I forget who said this first, but our goals say who we want to be. Our habits say who we are. So I love that it's not high performance goals, not high performance what we hope to be someday. It's high performance habits. It's what we are doing right now. What is our superpower, and what are we developing that into a stronger and stronger habit with? Because it takes focusing on our strengths to go higher and higher. And I know I said that was the last, but one last quick one. And we get into these stories and forget where they come from, but I heard somebody speaking a long time ago, and they were talking about a famous violinist. And at the end of a concert, a woman came up and said to this violinist, I would give half my life to be able to play as good as you. And this violinist looked at her and said, I gave more than that. If you want to develop high performance habits, you got to be willing to give and give and give to make those.
That there is no better way to end that. That was truly awesome. It truly comes down to giving up our past self, giving up the thing that we have had before to become our new version of what we want. And it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard. Absolutely. But it's always gonna be worth it. Because growing and changing is always going to be uncomfortable. But it's through the uncomfortability, not going around the bush, not trying to jump your way through shortcuts or that, but actually going through the uncomfortability that we come out on the other side as the version and the champion that we want to be. So with all that, wrapping up this episode, thank you, champions, for listening to this. And if you have found inspiration in this, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll be able to find the link to our podcast, link to our socials, and everything else going in the Champion Circle universe. Until next time, champions, continue to have the habits that you want to be a high performer. Choose and make a conscious decision to be a master of it. And always remember that it truly is just a few steps away. And it's those few steps that we consistently do every day to get us to be the champion of our life. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.